Hi, welcome to my podcast entitled The Wright Experience. I'm Dr. William T. Wright Jr., the founder and host of this show. It is absolutely amazing to see the awesome responses that we've been getting for this show over the past 7 months now. I'm absolutely excited about the future of this show and hope that it continues to reach and touch many people live. This is absolutely a joy of my career thus far, and we look forward to continuing to bring you many more amazing opportunities for content. I'm beginning my 9th year as superintendent of schools and 24th as a public school educator. And over those years, I've been fortunate enough to get to know and work with some amazing leaders from all across the United States. The vision of this show has been to share these podcasts with you so that we can grow and learn from people who are leading others every day. We've been focusing initially on educational leaders, and next month we're actually going to feature as a part of National Principals Month, principals throughout the state. We'll be talking more about that. When you hear something that you like on our show, I want you to take the opportunity to please comment to us. We love reading and responding to comments. I want you to click like. And most importantly, those of you that are viewing us via YouTube, we'd like for you to click that all-important subscribe button. Thank you for your support thus far. We look forward to continuing to see you be a part of what we're trying to do. Tonight is episode 28 of The Wright Experience. My guest this evening is a veteran superintendent who has served at the highest levels of school district leadership for many years. He currently serves as superintendent of one of the largest districts in the state of North Carolina that is not located in a major metropolitan area. My guest is Dr. Ethan Lenker. Dr. Ethan Lenker has served as Pitt County Public Schools Superintendent since 2013. Dr. Lenker has spent nearly 34 years working in the field of education with more than 17 years. Yes, 17 years as a superintendent serving in Pitt County, Sampson County, and Jones County schools. In addition, Dr. Lenker also has experience as a central office director. He's been a principal and an assistant principal in North Carolina, as well as a calculus and physics teacher in Virginia. Dr. Lenker received his bachelor and master's from Virginia Tech. And in 2006, Dr. Lenker received his doctorate of education from East Carolina University. Accolades for Dr. Lenker are numerous, but they include being named Regional Superintendent of the Year 3 times and winning the Dr. Brad Sneeden Leadership Award. During his leadership in Pitt County schools, Dr. Lenker has led many successful initiatives and programs, including the creation of 2 early college high schools, 7 STEM labs, 2 dual language immersion programs, a technical academy, and 6 thematic schools. Also under his leadership, Pitt County Schools has received over $20 million in federal grants, and several PCS schools are award-winning and nationally recognized. He has been described as a visionary and a tireless worker who is deeply committed to his staff and his students. He loves to be out in the schools frequently, actively monitoring success and affecting change. Dr. Lenker has been married to his wife, Alice, for nearly 29 years, and they have 2 children, Eleanor and Alexandra. At this time, I'd like to welcome to the Wright Experience my friend, Dr. Ethan Lenker. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
All right. It's a pleasure to have you here and pleasure to have you on the show. And certainly want to get all of this 17 years of superintendent wisdom out to the.
you could use the word wisdom carefully in that for sure. I don't know about that part. You know, sometimes being a calculus teacher had its advantages, no doubt.
Amen, brother. I understand that well. But anyway, I also learned tonight that you did some radio too. That's pretty good. I didn't know that we had that in common until just a few minutes ago. But that's pretty good.
28 or so, 20, 30 years ago maybe, but back at Virginia Tech. Good stuff.
All right. Very good. So, Dr. Lenker, we'll get right into the questions. Talk to us a little bit about Pitt County schools and some of the wonderful things that you have currently going on in your district.
Sure. I've been pretty lucky here, to be honest, in Pitt County. I've had real successful and supportive boards of education who really wanted to see some change, and the community was ready for it. So we were able to do lots of little things and a couple major ones, I guess. But we came in and it was kind of a surprise. We didn't have a early college here in Pitt County, and obviously Pitt Community College is a huge community college, and East Carolina University right here with 30,000 kids, you would think that would be a natural, but we didn't have that. So that's one of the first things I started working on. And that was really, I guess, one of the crowning jewels, I think, to get the Pitt Community College, early college going. And that school has been just been an amazing addition to our school system. That school has actually won 2 national awards as the Title I School of the Year, a couple times, back in 18 and 19. So just been exciting to see that kind of those just options. And, we one of the things we push, and we all do as superintendents, right? It's all about opportunities for the kids.
Right.
So that's really what we've been focusing on is what can we do to make sure our kids have that opportunity for their future? And you've heard this, it's not my future. At least I hope my future is set, and this is it. Right. But, we want to make sure that we're giving kids that opportunity. So when they get to high school and get ready to graduate, that it's their choice. They can go to 4-year college. They can go to a 2-year college. They can go to work. I mean, we've spent a lot of time with our community and businesses and trying to get kids, apprenticeship programs while they're in school. So that's been the exciting part. Just expanding those opportunities. You talked about, the dual immersion schools and some of these other things we've done in the last couple of years, and just watching those kids grow. We just had our first group of kids graduate, from 5th grade, last year at our first dual immersion school at Belvoir Elementary, and just a lot of time and to put that together and watch these kids then develop over 6 years. And the teachers and the principals who are leading that school, it's kind of exciting to see your work come to fruition,
So how long the early colleges have been in existence? How many years now?
The first one we created, we started in 2015. So they've already had that's the Pitt Pitt Community College is how we call it, the early college. That will have its probably its 1, 2, 3, be its 4th graduation coming up this year.
Okay.
And then we created what we call Innovation. That's our Innovation Early College High School at ECU. That's this year coming up will be our first graduating class. So it's going to be a super exciting time. And just working with ECU has just been, lots of challenges, obviously, but super rewarding for our students to be able to be on East Carolina's campus and just, be able to walk in and on the campus like that is just very powerful for those kids. Right.
So you're providing experiences at all levels, and that's really what education, particularly of the future, it needs to be about, right, as opposed to just sending everybody or prepping everybody for that 4-year experience, college university experience. It's right, also about preparing for work and things of that nature. So that's outstanding.
And that's I was just thinking the whole you talked about preparing for work, and I don't know if you're going to talk about the community partnerships, and if we'll get there at some point, but that's just been at least for the last 5 or 6 years, in your experience, you've seen the whole shift really from 25 years ago, where it was all about everybody's going to college, right?
Right.
And then we actually looked at the data and said, well, no, they're not, So, but so then we started really looking at what does our community need, and that actually helped. We talked about the STEM lab and some other things that really helped drive those programs.
Right. Absolutely. We better be smart enough to prepare for global employment.
Correct.
That's exactly right. Dr. Lenker, the average tenure of a superintendent is 3 years per job, we'll say, and about 5 years total. Yet you are one of the longest serving superintendents now in the state at 17 years. I say that over and over again, not to mess with you. That's an accomplishment. But to what do you attribute your success and longevity?
Yeah, I'm sure there's patented answers. A lot of people say, but I think a lot of it just has to do with you boil everything down to the least common denominator, and that's the students, right?
Sure.
You know, if you make a decision and you can explain that to people,
Right.
being the boards of education in your communities, wherever you happen to be working, then it just does seem to flow pretty easy. You know, it's not always, sometimes you don't make decisions everyone likes, obviously, but if you can explain why it's the best for kids and why it's best for the school system, why it's best to grow these opportunities, then you can kind of do things. My dad was a school superintendent for 20 some years. I don't know if you knew that, even down here in Carter County, as a matter of fact. And I used to ask him the same question, Dad, what are you doing? And it's not about fluff, right? It's just not about fluff. And that was my dad's answer. And that's really what it's about. It's about kids and how are you making things better, and then keeping your board actively engaged in those sort of things. I guess just makes it seem like we're all on the same team a little more.
Sure.
And sometimes you have those rocky moments. We all do. But I've been blessed, the quality of people I've worked with, and here in Pitt County, the quality of my principals and the teachers and everybody I work with, plus the Board of Education. And I loved Sampson County, Jones County. They were great places to be. Sampson County, I think every principal I had graduated or was from Sampson County. So you talk about community support, it was huge.
Right.
So I'm not sure if that really answered your question there.
Oh, absolutely.
But 17 years though, when you said that, I was like, man, what am I doing? Right. But,
That's an awesome accomplishment, though, and you certainly be commended for any kind of leadership role, but particularly with the challenges that we've had in education, particularly the last few years. That should be worn as a badge of honor for sure.
Yeah,
and so
the last couple have been tough. Been for all of us, from the teachers to the board members to everybody. It's and the grocery store people, right? It's just been for everybody. It's been tough.
And I'm not sure that we're past that yet. I think we're still working through that. But Dr. Lenker, you've served in a superintendency now in a small district, a medium-sized district. We're going to call Sampson a medium-sized district for the purposes of this question, and now a large district. What are some of the differences in each type of leadership role, in your opinion?
I think the biggest thing is really, had a great superintendent when I was a principal in Jones County, who just talked about, how much you want to meddle. That was the way he talked about it. And his name was Dr. Cliff Wilson, a great guy. He actually called it out. He used to say, I'm a meddler. So he wanted to be, and that's where he wanted to be. And what I've noticed is from, it's really completely different jobs. I say that being in Jones County has made me a much better superintendent in Pitt, for sure. Because, in Jones County, you interviewed everybody.
Right.
Every position in the district, you interviewed people. You helped open milk bids,
Right.
you did those things. That's just what you did. You visited every school probably once or twice a week, and it was great. Right. Then you go to a place like Sampson, with 16, 17 schools we had there, and just, much bigger district comparatively. And you actually have, I went from 4 central office people to about 10, in Jones County. It was really 4 of us that ran the whole central office, which means there's a lot more paperwork because we have to do the same paperwork in Jones as we had to do here. Right. So here I've got 20 people to do it all. There I had 4 of us, to do it. So really, but in Sampson, you really started to grow out. And once you started seeing, the multiple high schools and trying to balance, different parts of the community and financially in some ways and other like that, but also all the resources and things, how to make sure everybody's getting what their needs are in different ends of the county. So you really could see that jump from Jones to Sampson, and then coming to here, it's really almost definitely a different job than I had in Jones for sure. It's much more. You're not you really got to hire somebody and get out of the way, right?
Yeah, right.
That's truly what you have to do. You don't have time to meddle and get too involved in the weeds. You've got, I've got amazing people here. I've got just incredible people. Dr. Lassiter, who is, from this area, Steve, my EPS guy, Dr. Rohn, who I just hired from Iredale, who runs HR. These people are super talented, and to be honest, they're better at what they do than I am in their respective fields, right?
Right.
So you got to let them do their job, and you tell them what you want, and they brief you on it, and you may give a few hints here or there, a few directions here and there, but my job now is really to make sure that people stay out of their way so they can do theirs.
Exactly.
And that's. And keep the community in where they need to be and engaged and everything going on, but allow them to get that curriculum where it needs to be and get that buy-in from the teachers and the principals and give them that support. So when they're out having these conversations, that the community can see why, so they can keep moving forward. So that's it's just a vastly different job. Not than I think about like Kathy Moore over in Wake County. I can't imagine what her job is like, right?
Right.
It's exciting and I've done it a long time, as you said, but I really like the job.
Sure.
There are days that hit all of us, right? There are days, but I enjoy the job. I don't know what else I would do. I'd go back to being a calculus physics teacher. That was fun too, but I do enjoy it. But the really difference is really just how far do you get into the weeds is the biggest part of the job. The changes between Jones to Sampson to Pitt.
Good. And you said something that I think is really, really, really key to leadership of any kind, but particularly leadership in the 21st century. When you hire good people, you support them, but you allow them to do the work that they've been assigned to do. That's so key, particularly in today's culture and society.
Yeah.
Because there are some amazing leaders out here that certainly need the opportunity and the support to do and to express their talent. So I think that's absolutely key. When you're looking for leaders in your school district, we're going to kind of get into your brain a little bit here if we can. What are some of the characteristics and skills that you seek when you're looking for leaders?
I think when I walk around with either a teacher or assistant principal or principal, one of the things you that usually jumps out at you pretty quick is what their vision is, right? Do they have a vision outside of whatever their four walls are? Whether it's a teacher or an AP or a principal, and that's where you really notice. I think where you notice that leadership. Can they see what the next step would look like? Can they talk about it? Can they share what they're doing to actually get to that point? I think that's the biggest thing I look at, and is understanding curriculum, and in our world is obviously huge, or personnel law or whatever the case may be, but can they take that knowledge and apply it? Can they take the signs of reading thing we're talking about now that we're all dealing with, right? So can they take that and show how that applies to the whole instructional program, and not just a little piece, but to the whole instructional program, the whole vision of what's going on in all of the curriculum world, right? So that's what you look for, and someone who truly can understand it and then talk about it. I think that's the when you find that in a person, they usually stand out pretty quickly, is what I've found. And when they're having that conversation, I've got a young principal now who's. I walked around with him 2 years ago as an AP, and 10 minutes later, I said, this guy's got it going on.
Right.
And he's one of the best principals I've ever worked with. He's just amazing. Does a great job. He's going to be probably have my job in 10 years if he wants it. Right. So, just you could just see it. You can just see it coming. Just the conversation is there. So I think that's the big thing. But they don't get. You don't get too flustered. You can be calm. Yeah, it's in the last 18 months, what we've all had to learn is, to ebb and flow and go with it, but you got to stay calm. And you know, 'cause we had a lot of changes the last 18 months, you know, I don't know how many times we changed our school schedule last year, 6 or 7, I think. But you can tell who was able to just keep it moving and stay with it. They're the leaders who, you know, can see the bigger picture, right? So
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing I look for. Once you can see the bigger picture and take what they're doing and apply it, you know, to just more of the district than just their building or just their classroom.
So you not once did you mention resume or how intelligent people were. You're talking about you're talking about everyday skills that people can
Well,
use
if we're
to move the ball
talking
forward.
straight about intelligence, you know, maybe you wouldn't have me here either. I don't know, right? Right, William?
Me either, brother. Me either.
But
Me either. That's exactly right.
I think it's just about being able to see it and apply that knowledge and apply that skill and do it in a way that people respect.
There you go.
I mean, you know, we've all seen, you know, people who were probably a lot smarter than I am, who didn't make it in this business.
That's right.
Who didn't make it as a leader of anything. You know, they may have gotten the opportunity, but it didn't last.
Right.
You know, and you know, when was the last time, you know, I know superintendents all have a little bit of an ego, but the really good ones that last a long time, you've been 9 years. It's not about us.
Right.
You know,
Right.
when anybody thinks it's about them, they need to move on. Right.
Won't last long in that.
Exactly right.
That realm. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some of the most challenging aspects, Dr. Lenker, in your opinion, of being educational leaders in today's schools?
Well, if we're talking today's schools, if we look a little more globally, I think the biggest challenge is trying to keep up with the world.
Absolutely.
I joke with my 2 daughters all the time that you better pay attention to the world around you because it's changing quick. And that's something that is a challenge because, you know, a lot of times schools are slow to change.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to keep the instructional process there, keep the curriculum where it needs to be, and keep those opportunities. So when kids, like we said earlier, when kids graduate, that it's their future.
Right.
I think that's the biggest challenge we have because the world is changing so fast. I mean, it's easy we can talk about, you know, the last 18 months, you know, and that is what it is. And, you know, just trying to find people to work nowadays is I mean, it's not really leadership. That's just a nightmare, right? Just trying to find, you know, bus drivers and teacher assistants and child nutrition and teachers and principals and assistant principals and everything. That's been a huge challenge. But I think the real challenge in education is how to keep up with the world. Working in a town like Greenville is also a challenge because we got lots of different viewpoints and a lot of diversity, and we need to meet the needs of this group and this group. And, you know, one of the things we've tried and really started pushing the last couple of years is really how to approach equity in giving kids what they need, you know, because kids, you know, Greenville, it's a very diverse community, and kids need different things at different times of their life, right? Just like my kids, you know, my kids needed different things when they were 6 and 10, and then you know, it's not all the same. So I think that's been the real challenge is how do we keep up with the world, but also make sure we're keeping kids at the forefront, but giving them everything they need, and because the needs are changing quickly.
That whole educating children and educating folks to this whole idea, as you proposed, of this ever-changing world. How do we better educate our communities on that fact? You know, we see it, but it seems that the minute we try to do something as school districts to embrace those changes and those shifts, it's almost like, well, no, we don't need to do that yet. You know, how do we educate our communities to be on board with making those changes?
I think here, I think our community actually helped us see
Okay, good.
A lot of it was, you know, when, you know, making the shift to more of instead of just all going to college, really making that shift into the community of working with the chamber and all the local businesses in town. Well, they saw that we really needed to make a shift. I had a board of education that was adamant that we needed to make sure we're promoting and pushing everything from ag and FFA to welding and electricity and everything in between. We just started 2 years ago this technical academy with PCC. That's just that if we can continue growing it, it's going to develop into its own thing, right? Its own school, its own program. It's going to have more opportunities for kids than but because that's kind of where we're seeing the world is going to now. It's not all going to higher ed. We're not all going to ECU or Carolina or state or wherever else we are. We've got kids who want to go to work, and I'm not. And 10 years ago, I'm not sure we were doing a great job of that.
Right.
I think we're doing a much better job now. And that's what the businesses are coming in. I mean, we've all heard that, I know here anyway, they're talking 50% of the workers are going to be gone in 5 years at places like Greenville Utilities and Thermo Fisher and other businesses here in town. So what we've really been focusing on is how to replace those workers.
Right.
Because
that stuff's going to be automated. That's what they're telling us. Is that right? A lot of that work will be automated. Yeah. Okay.
But the people who are working at Thermo Fisher or Heister Yale, and I've had time to walk through these places, working at a place like Heister Yale making forklifts is obviously not what it was 50 years ago.
Sure.
I mean, it's in a giant robotic assembly line, and you've got to be able to do lots of things in your area, right? You've got to be able to work a computer. It's not, you're not plugging on some wheels, right? You're doing lots of things, and you got to know how to fix the assembly line, so that part of the CT world has changed. And that's where we're trying to keep up with everything we're doing, right? With how the world is changing.
And that requires a whole retooling and reinventing. And you talked about a key. How would you know that if you weren't engaged in the community and trying to learn more about the community needs and global needs, not just the community, but also how we make kids successful. We learned very recently that the shipyard, which is an hour drive from Hertford County, they're paying entry level people about $60,000 a year. Now, I don't want all my teachers that are watching to leave and go work for the shipyard, but that's not a bad start. I'll put it that way.
That's right, and it's all about that partnership.
That's right.
Starting with whether it's the Chamber of Commerce or we've got some trades formers programs and those things, but where these businesses have invited our teachers and our counselors, which has been huge, having our counselors go. I've actually just enjoyed it because I think it's kind of fun to see what that side of the world looks like, right? When you go to Thermo Fisher, right up the street here is making all sorts of biomedical type things, right? But they've got what's it called when you put the little glasses on and you do all this stuff. I'm forgetting what it's called right now, but it's when they kind of just do it in the virtual world, right? And so they're doing all this stuff, and that's how and they're teaching their employees to do it that way. But we're not yet, but we need to be, right? So that's just something else we've got to step up to.
And that's how we adapt ourselves to meet the needs of our community and those employers that we're sending our graduates to. So absolutely. Right. There's another plug for STEM learning.
Yeah, and those STEM labs are huge.
That's right.
When we created our STEM labs, we went to the businesses in town and said, "Here's our list of things we can do. You pick them. Right. We'll put them in the buildings. You tell us what you want us to do."
There you go.
And that's we created health sciences STEM labs just because of Vidant. So trying to meet the needs of the community in all sorts of ways.
The advantages of a large school.
It has other disadvantages too, but
right. Dr. Lenker, recruitment and retention of quality educational professionals from the classroom to the district office. You mentioned bus drivers. Those things used to be primarily rural school district issues only. Now there seems to be that challenge everywhere. What do we need to do to ensure that we're continuing to get and retain the best and brightest in our field?
I think the first thing we got to do is promote education as a great place to work, right? I mean,
Amen.
When you go into school and you work and you see the people interacting with the kids, I mean, it is a good place to work. I mean, that's why people went there in the first place. That's why, I've done this job for 30 some years now, right? So that's just one. We got to just as a whole, we got to start promoting that. And as you said, if you can go make $60,000 up the street at the shipyard, and obviously nothing wrong there. I was in that presentations too, so that was a great place to work. But we also got to make it competitive.
Sure. Absolutely.
Financially. And one of the things that, we talked about the grants that we received earlier a couple years ago, we started creating what we call our advanced teaching roles. Not everybody wants to become a principal. Some people just love being a teacher, and that's great. But we have to give them opportunities to expand their influence, which is what we've seen, that if we can take a great teacher and keep them in the classroom, but influence multiple classes, the teacher, because of just influencing multiple classrooms, gets the opportunity to make more money, obviously stays into the classroom longer, affects more kids, makes education better. Sure. And that there is the recruitment and retention piece that we're, trying to focus on.
Right.
But the first thing we got to do is really promote education as a great place to work.
That's right.
Which I think most of us who go out in the schools and see that it is, and then what do we have to do to keep them?
Right.
That's the key part. And that's where I think these other opportunities, if you're going to be a multi-classroom teacher for us or a facilitating teacher and can make an extra 10, 15, 20,000 or 20%, that gives you the opportunity to stay in a classroom with the kids, which is why all of us got in this business anyways, because of the students. Right. So, and then you get a chance to make enough money to have a good life and stay there and affect lots of kids. So I think that's where we got to start.
And you mentioned the advanced teacher roles program, and I've been talking to you guys a lot lately about opportunity culture and so forth. And in my previous district, we did something called TAP. Some of the best professional development, to be honest with you, that you can do for teachers is to have other teachers be the one leading that professional development.
Sure.
We spend, all of us have spent tons of money getting somebody to come in from out of town, and that stuff has its place still. We still need to do some of that, but I agree that advanced teacher roles work is key with giving. It's good for the teacher that is accepting that leadership role, but it's also some of the best PD that you can have for teachers that are that are learning to be better teachers in their classroom. Absolutely.
So you really learn to do something. The old proverb, right? You really learn to do it when you actually are teaching somebody else. So when these teachers are teaching their peers, you talk about those abilities, just climbing.
That's right.
We had the best professional summer admin retreat we've ever had this year, and the only speaker was some of our principals. They did it all, and it was the best one we've done.
So, Dr. Lenker, what sources do you use to continue to develop yourself professionally? Books you read, or what have you?
Every now and then, I like to read Harry Potter just to get back to step back a little bit, right?
Right. Yep.
We do a lot of book studies here when we promote a principal or AP to principal. We do studies with them. I still like to go. To be honest, it's old school stuff, but I like to go back and read Marzano's stuff and have those conversations with new principals or new APs. I just think some of the stuff Marzano did, 10, 15 years ago was just powerful and still is. With a lot of the teacher quality stuff that is coming out in the last 10 years on really because of the advanced teaching roles, that program that we started several years ago has really lent itself to really trying to understand the qualities of truly being an effective teacher. I think James Strong out of William & Mary wrote a book called Qualities of Effective Teachers and Qualities of Effective Principals. That was just good stuff that we use lots of times and still use it today. So there are a couple things I like to do, but sometimes good just to step back and get in the fantasy world of Harry Potter and drift away for a little while.
That's pretty good. I'm gonna have to remember that one. Absolutely, and we all have to have those outlets and those things that take us away from the day-to-day challenges of doing this work. Dr. Lenker, I'm about at the end of my questions. Are there any other items that you can think of that warrant discussion tonight? Any advice would you like to give to aspiring leaders that we can cover at this time?
Well, I think you just always make sure you're looking at the bigger picture.
Yep.
And I really can't emphasize enough, in my opinion, that just being, level-headed and calm, and when you make a decision, don't be afraid to think about it just a little bit and talk to people about it. I don't know how many decisions I make a day around here, a lot, but I don't make all of them by myself.
Right.
I call other superintendents. We talk about it when we're in our meetings. What's the way? How do we go? I actually, talked to our superintendent friend from Washington County today to talk to her a little bit to help me out. And she's been superintendent for what, 18 months, 2 years now. And I'm calling her, how is she doing things? Right. So just don't be afraid to call people and ask, and don't be afraid to make don't think you have to make a decision by yourself.
So even a 17-year superintendent veteran can still learn from us newbies.
I learn a lot from.
Am I a newbie? I don't know if I'm a newbie anymore.
Yeah, you don't count anymore, but you get some great ideas from somebody who's been on the job for a year.
That's right.
And I learned a lot listening to our superintendent organization.
That's right.
Listening to when Jack Hoke can put us in a small group, and I can listen to somebody who's been a superintendent for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
They're thinking of something that maybe I haven't thought of yet. I appreciate that opportunity.
Right. So the key to that is even those of us that have been around a while, don't think that you got it all solved and that kind of thing. We can always learn from each other.
Correct.
Dr. Lenker, if you hold on with me for a minute, we'll come back and close out the show.
All right.
My guest next week is Dr. Valerie Bridges, who is the superintendent of Edgecombe County Public Schools in North Carolina. Dr. Bridges is also currently a regional superintendent of the year for the region in which she serves, and she'll be a candidate for the state superintendent of the year. Also, next month is National Principals Month. I'm in the process of creating podcasts for the month of October, which feature principals. So if you have suggestions about who I need to have on the show next month, that's an outstanding principal. Please let me know that as we're in the process of booking those podcasts as we speak. Dr. Lenker, first of all, I want to thank you very much for being my guest tonight. And I certainly enjoy working with you in our encounters within our region. I enjoy the conversations that we have amongst the 18 and those occasional conversations that we have on the cell phone when it's just Ethan and William. So although our districts are very different, I appreciate your candor and insight about how we can all get better. I also appreciate the fact that while you are a veteran superintendent and in a big district, you still understand what it's like to be in a small district that has those 4 or 5 people, as you mentioned, trying to get it all done. And so certainly appreciate you and your leadership.
Thank you, Dr. Wright, for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yes. And thank you to our audience tonight. Thank you very much for watching The Wright Experience. Please continue to spread the word. Click comments and put comments in, click like, and subscribe. Thank you for watching The Wright Experience, and good evening.